Brewmaster monks stagger their damage and use the power of home-cooked brews to protect themselves and their allies as a tank. I'm going to show you everything to succeed that you need to know in the War Within Season 1. It's going to be very beginner-friendly, but it's also going to show you everything you need to know as a veteran so you can hit the ground running. We're going to start off with our stat priorities. Now, our primary stat is agility. We want a higher and higher eye level or item level of gear to get more agility and secondary stats. If you're looking at comparing the secondary stats, generally I wouldn't advise this unless you're actually looking at two items of the same eye level. A higher eye level is generally always going to be an improvement. Looking at the secondary stats then, we have versatility, increasing damage and healing done, and also reducing damage taken. We have critical strike, where your chance to do more damage and healing. We have mastery, which as a Brewmaster monk is called elusive brawler. Each time you're hit by a melee attack or hit with blackout kick, you gain stacking 11% increased dodge chance until your next successful dodge. And it also increases your attack power. So every time someone hits you in melee, you're going to get more and more and more dodge chance until you successfully dodge. Haste increases your attack speed, spellcasting speed, and how quickly we regenerate our energy. And then we actually have something unique as a Brewmaster monk called stagger. You stagger 30% of incoming damage, which means that it's going to actually do damage to you in a kind of staggered effect. It's not all going to hit at once, you're actually going to stagger it over time. That is really unique to Brewmasters. While we're here, let's take a very quick look at the set bonus. Now, I will say, if you don't know what these abilities are, don't worry. I'll be covering them in full shortly in this video. The 2 set bonus, Blackout Kick and Keg Smash, deal more damage, and Shuffle grants 3% damage reduction. 4 set bonus, Blackout Kick increases your damage dealt, stacking up to 3 times, and has a chance to reset the cooldown on Keg Smash and make its next cast cost no energy. So now looking at the cooldowns and some of the utilities that we have at our disposal. These are the most important ones I think you need to be aware of. Now on the left here, we've got things we're doing to our enemy. And on the right, we've got things that we're doing to enhance us and our allies. These can be used on every spec, by the way. They're all from the monk class tree, meaning it's the same no matter what class you're in. So let's get started. First, we've got paralysis. Incapacitates a target for a minute. You can only do this to one target at a time, so they are paralyzed. Oh dear. The next one we have is disable, reducing the target's movement speed by 50%, so halving their movement speed for 15 seconds. And the duration of that is actually going to be refreshed whenever you do melee attacks, which is really awesome. And then lastly, on the left side, we've got leg sweep, knocking down all enemies within 10 yards and also stunning them as well. So some really great utilities that we've got there. On the right-hand side, we've got diffuse magic, reduces magic damage you take by 60% and transfers all currently active harmful magic effects on you back to the original caster, if possible. Then we have Fortifying Brew on a 2-minute cooldown, turns your skin to stone for 15 seconds, increasing your current and maximum health by 20%, and also reducing how much damage you take at the same time. Lastly, we have Ring of Peace. Form a Ring of Peace at the target location for 5 seconds. Enemies that enter that ring will be ejected from it, so it's a safe place for you and your allies. And that pretty much is the main utilities that I want to show you for Monk in this video. Again, do always look through your class talent tree, maybe when you're more familiar with the spec. Look through your spellbook and just see what else we have available. There's always other things that we can do, but these are the main and most important ones that I want you to be aware of for Season 1. Now for the fun part, which is the rotation and how it all comes together. So we are going to be playing Master of Harmony hero talents for both Raiding and Mythic Plus in the War Within for Brewmaster. And I quite like that. And that's all I have to say. We are going to be going through the hero talents in much more detail shortly. So looking at the priority list here, the first thing we should be doing, if we can, is using Touch of Death. And we can be executing our enemies with this wherever possible. You exploit the enemy target's weakest point, killing them instantly, only usable on creatures that have less health than you, reduces delayed stagger damage by 200% of damage dealt. So if you don't know or you've forgotten, as a monk, we actually have something very, very unique, which is stagger. You stagger 35% of incoming damage. So that means it's going to be staggered over a period of time rather than all being taken by us just instantly in one hit. And we have a lot of ways that we can mitigate stagger and actually sometimes just get rid of that stagger damage altogether as well. So the second one we have is Blackout Kick. Strike with a blast of chi energy, dealing physical damage and granting shuffle for 3 seconds. What is shuffle, you may ask? That is this one here. Your stagger is double as effective. So it's immediately obvious why Blackout Kick is so useful for us in keeping up that buff as much as possible so we can stagger more damage. After that, we're going to use Keg Smash. Smash a keg of brew on the target, dealing damage to all enemies within 8 yards and reducing their movement speed. Grants shuffle for 5 seconds. Again, shuffle is the buff where our stagger is more effective. And reduces the remaining cooldown on any of your brews. And we've got a few brews that we are going to be using, like Purifying Brew over here. After that, we have Breath of Fire. It's on a 15-second cooldown. Breath of Fire or Breathe Fire on targets in front of you, causing fire damage and reduced damage to secondary targets. Targets that are affected by Keg Smash will also burn, taking fire damage and dealing less damage to you by 12 seconds. What I really love about this is we're basically smashing a keg and making beer go everywhere, and then we're setting a light to it, which just feels like the most amazing class fantasy ever. So remember then, we're going to be using, getting our stagger out with Blackout Kick, smashing those kegs and then lighting it with Breath of Fire, getting loads of stagger and also improving our stagger with Shuffle, and then actually reducing how much damage the enemies do to us with Breath of Fire. Then we have another one of our brews, Celestial Brew. This is really good, even if you're taking not a lot of damage. A swig of strong brew that coalesces purified chi, escaping your body into Celestial Guard, absorbing damage. So basically, as you can see here, we're putting on an absorption shield. Purifying stagger damage increases absorption by up to 200%, and there is 2 charges on this. After that, we're going to use one of our cooldowns, Weapons of Order. For the next 30 seconds, your mastery is increased massively, and additionally, Keg Smash cooldown is reset, and enemies hit by Keg Smash or Rising Sun Kick take increased damage from you for 10 seconds, and that can stack up to 4 times. So that's doing quite a lot. What is Rising Sun Kick? Well, that's the next ability we have here. Kick upwards, dealing physical damage. And that is actually going to trigger something called Chi Wave, and that is this buff here. Your next Rising Sun Kick or Vivify releases a Chi Wave onto the target. And we can see that talent over here. Every 15 seconds, your next Rising Sun Kick or Vivify releases a wave of Chi energy that flows through friends and foes, dealing damage to them, and it does bounce up to 7 times as well. So that is why we're using our Rising Sun Kick to then use our Chi Wave there. Then we have Exploding Keg. It's on a minute cooldown. As you can see there, we're throwing a Exploding Keg, hurling a Flaming Keg at the target, dealing fire damage to nearby enemies and causing your attacks against them to deal additional fire damage and causing their melee attacks to deal 100% reduced damage for the next 3 seconds. There is also this talent here in the hero talents. Casting a physical spell or ability increases the damage and healing of your next fire or nature spell or ability by 3% and vice versa, and that stacks up to 5 times. And you do want to try and use your Exploding Keg when you have 5 stacks of this, if possible. Then we have our Purifying Brew. This is one of my favourite abilities ever. It clears 60% of your damage that has been delayed with stagger. So just immediately clears it. Isn't that amazing? Instantly heals you for 25% of the damage cleared as well. Now, it's on an 18-second recharge, so using it so that we're not capping charges is absolutely fine on this ability. And we do also have this talent over here, Special Delivery. Drinking from your brews has a 100% chance to toss a keg high into the air that lands nearby, dealing damage to all enemies within 8 yards and reducing their movement speed. So that is also going to be affected from Purifying Brew as well. So even if you're like, I'm only taking minimal damage, I don't need to be using my Purifying Brew, it actually has a damage potential outwards as well as well. Lastly, at this lower kind of priority, we can use our second charge of Keg Smash. We're using it here for a few reasons, as explained, but here we're just, we've got 2 charges, so we can use it at a lower priority as well. And then if you've got nothing else to really press, we can use Tiger Palm. However, the one caveat you want to make sure that you're not spamming this with is that you have enough energy available. It does cost 25 energy to use Tiger Palm. You want to make sure that you've got 40 energy available when you want to use your next Keg Smash. You don't want to fall foul of using that too much and going, oh no, I don't have enough energy to actually use Keg Smash when I need to. Looking at the few cooldowns, we've got Dampen Harm, reducing damage taken, Invoke Niaozo, the Black Ox, summoning an effigy of them, attacks your primary target and frequently stomps, damaging nearby enemies. While he is active, 25% of damage delayed by stagger is instead staggered by Niaozo, so that is amazing. It helps take off some of that stagger as well. Zen Meditation on a 5-minute cooldown reduces all damage taken massively for 8 seconds, and being hit by a melee attack or taking another action will cancel that effect. And that's a good cooldown for damage reduction there as well. And that is pretty much the single target and raid rotation we're going to be doing. Now we're going to move over into the Mythic Plus rotation before we take a look at those deep dives on the hero talents. Now moving on to the Mythic Plus build, you can see very few talents are changing. Thank God for that. Now, the rotation changes a little bit, but really all we're doing is just making it more friendly for an AoE kind of situation. So, still use your Touch of Death, still use your Blackout Kick, still use your Keg Smash, and your Breath of Fire, but in the middle, use your Chi Burst. Hurls a torrent of Chi up to 40 yards forward, dealing nature damage to all enemies, and dealing healing to the monk and its allies in its path. Casting Chi Burst does not prevent avoiding attacks. Now, the important thing to note here is that we do not have Chi Wave. We're using Chi Burst instead in this talent build. Something you are going to actually be triggering with your Breath of Fire is going to be, not our professions, or, oh my God, Charred Passions. If your Breath of Fire ignites your right leg in flame, causing your Blackout Kick and Spinning Crane Kick to deal additional damage as fire damage and refresh the duration of your Breath of Fire on the target. So we can use Breath of Fire. You can see I've got the buff there where my leg's on fire, and I can use Blackout Kick with that buff in that order. And then same again, we're using Exploding Keg, same way as before, ideally with 5 stacks from your balanced stratagem. And then using Celestial Brew, Weapons of Order, pretty much the same as before, and Rising Sun Kick. But now a new one, Spinning Crane Kick, has entered the battlefield. Again, we want to use Spinning Crane Kick if it is buffed by Breath of Fire on your Charred Passions as well, but a bit more further down on the priority list. When you use it, remember, like you'll notice, it doesn't drop off. The buff will last the full duration. So it's not, if I show you, if I use Breath of Fire, you can see the buff there. If I use Blackout Kick, we still have the buff. So you still can go down the rotation and use Spinning Crane Kick with it, just as a lower priority than you would with your Blackout Kick. After that, again, like before, using the second charge of your Keg Smash, using your Purifying Brew, pretty much same as before. Use your Spinning Crane Kick, except like you don't have to use it at this point if it's not been buffed by Charred Passions. We're basically using Tiger Palm and Spinning Crane Kick as your kind of fillers, but just as I said in the raid rotation, make sure that you're not just, spamming Spinning Crane Kick so that you don't have enough energy to use your Keg Smash when you need to. And that will be the full rotation for Mythic Plus. So for this build, we are going with Master of Harmony hero talents. I do want to say this is all pretty much passive, and it is already worked into the rotation I've shown you. However, I do think it's important, as hero talents are the new hot thing on the block, that we do talk through what we're actually getting. So, Aspect of Harmony is the keystone talent in the Master of Harmony hero talent. Store Vitality from some of your damage dealt and some of your effective healing. So we're storing up that excess damage as health. For 10 seconds after casting Celestial Brew, your spells and abilities draw upon the stored vitality to deal more damage. On the left, we have Chi Burst and Chi Wave doing more damage and healing. Our first choice node, casting Tiger's Lust, reduces the remaining cooldown on roll, or Tiger's Lust grants 20% movement speed up to 2 allies near its target. So there's some movement speed utility choices there. Overwhelming Force, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and Tiger Palm deal 15% additional damage to enemies in a line in front of you, and damage is reduced above 5 targets. Then in the middle branch, we've got Harmonic Gambit. During Aspect of Harmony, expel harm and vivify, withdraw vitality to heal. So all that stored vitality, we're withdrawing it to heal ourselves. Celestial Brew has another charge. Chi Burst increases the vitality stored, or Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and Tiger Palm contribute an additional amount of vitality. And on the right-hand side, we've got Balanced Stratagem. Casting a physical spell or ability increases the damage and healing of your next fire or nature spell, and vice versa, and that can stack. Then we have Mantra of Purity. Purifying Brew removes an additional stagger amount and causes you to absorb some more incoming stagger, or Fortifying Brew applies Chi Cocoon, shielding you. Then, Clarity of Purpose. Casting Purifying Brew stores vitality, and it's increased based on how much stagger you have, which is interesting. And lastly, Coalescence. When Aspect of Harmony deals damage, it has a chance to spread to a nearby enemy, which is really cool. When you directly attack its affected target, it has a chance to intensify. Targets damaged or healed by your Aspect of Harmony take more damage or healing from you. You can see there it forms into other specs, obviously, as a monk as well. And that is the Master of Harmony hero talents we are going to be taking. And again, there is an import string in the description for you. For the consumables and enchants, etc., that we're going to be using, the first thing first is that we can now get Nerubian Gem Weavers. This is how we're going to get extra slots on our gear from the weekly vault, and you can put that on your head, wrist, and belt. On the cloak, we're going to put Chant of Winged Grace, giving avoidance and reducing fall damage. On the chest, it's Crystalline Radiance, giving primary stat. On the wrist, it's Armored Avoidance, great for tanking. Stormbound Armor Kit, giving primary stat on your legs. Defender's March on the boots. I would go for versatility on your rings, depending what you need more as a secondary stat, especially if you're simming, could change this, but I do always like in tanking, just getting a bit of extra versatility to increase damage done and also reduce damage taken. I think you can never go wrong with that. And for the weapon, whether you are a tank with a two-hander or dual-wielding tanks, I do think Authority of the Depths is always going to be the best weapon enchant for you in Season 1 of The War Within. What this does is, when you're doing damage, it will sometimes do big shadow damage to your enemy, and that can stack 3 times. For the actual consumables you're going to be using, generally, again, I would go for the Tempered Versatility Flask, again, giving you a good all-round. Feasts are fantastic, of course, for primary stat. Tempered Potions basically will give you massive increases to your secondary stats that you don't get from your flask. So everything but versatility. Algari Healing Potions, and then Whetstones. There's 2 different ones depending on obviously what tank you are. If you're using sword, axes, polearms, maces, staffs, and fist weapons, then you can use, there's 2 different ones to choose from there. Crystallized Augment Runes will give you primary stat. And finally, on your on your sockets, you're going to go with the Culminating Blasphemite. It's going to increase primary stat and give you more crit effect depending on how many different coloured gems you're using, like sapphires, onyxes, emeralds, and rubies. You want 1 of each colour at least to get the full effect from the epic gem. Thank you so much for watching this guide. I hope it was really useful for you in The War Within Season 1, whether it was for Mythic Plus or raiding. If you do have any questions, I'll be happy to help. My Patreon is in the description below, and that is where you can find my LVUI profiles, which I'll show you in a second. And also, I'm putting together a huge macro list for every single spec that's going to be really useful for you in The War Within as well. I am doing all classes and specs for The War Within, so if you are new to the channel, then please do click this playlist here to check out what else I have, which is all of them. There will also be PvP guides on this channel as well for War Within Season 1, so make sure to look out for that. This here is the UI that I was referring to. As you can see, we've got target frames, etc., left and right, and raid frames go in the middle here, and then weak auras in the middle with an action bar down here. Chat is behind where my camera is. Minimap and details, etc., are here on the right. All of the plater profiles, the voodoo, the LVY, etc., details profile has all been made by me. And again, you can get this on my Patreon should you like it.